Welcome everybody to our 2025 Roadmap webinar series on the Primo V NDE. The Primo V NDE is a next discovery experience. This session will be focusing primarily on the functionality in the Primo V NDE. The main focus here is not the rollout plans, the development plans, when it will be available. We will be mentioning that. I am Yoel Kortick, Senior Librarian at Ex Libris, and we're joined here with Nili Natan from Primo Product Management. Nili, thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule. I know it's tough to find available time, so thank you. We appreciate that. You can send in your questions in the chat, and Nili will be looking at that as I speak. I will also be looking at that. Before we jump in to the functionality of the Primo V NDE, a few minor administrative issues. So everybody has access here to the Alma 2025 Roadmap Webinar Series page. I will send this out in the chat just in case anybody doesn't have it. Those of you who could not make this live session and are watching this via YouTube, that link is also in the description in the video. So this is our Roadmap webinar series here, and we're now on our 5th session. So it's May, we're on our 5th session. That means we're averaging one a month, which really isn't true because we got another one in May. But in any case, so this page here, we've got a description of all of the sessions we've had, the accompanying resources, which is either a link to the documentation, a PowerPoint, a blog, or a combination thereof. And there's a recordings column here where you can access the recordings. So these are all our previous sessions. And today we were now May 13th. We're on the Primo Next Discovery Experience. I've got a PowerPoint, which we're going to look at only one slide of. The rest of it, I'm just going to be showing live, but you can download the PowerPoint from here. And by the end of today or tomorrow, we will have the recordings link here. Regarding the recordings and regarding the other sessions, this is our education webinars page for all the webinars that we offer. I'm going to send this out in the chat as well, just in case somebody doesn't have it. And here you can also register for upcoming sessions, and you can also view previous sessions, the recordings of previous sessions. For example, here's today's session. It's still on the upcoming because we've got another session later today that people can register for. So you can always come here. For example, if I were to do a facet here by on demand, I will get all of those on demand. Here, for example, is the link data enrichment that we showed last week. We got a link to the watch now. So you can see everything on this page as well. And then, of course, there's the Ex Libris YouTube channel. Here also, you can see all the recordings. For example, here, if I were to come to the playlists, here's the playlist for the Alma 2025 Roadmap Webinar Series with all of the different videos here. So you can access here as well. I believe everybody has access to this as well. You can also just do a search in YouTube for Ex Libris or Ex Libris Limited. And I will send that out in the chat as well, just to be sure everybody's got that as well. And I believe that covers our administrative issues. And yes, it does. Okay, so if we look at this PowerPoint, the only slide I'm going to show is the agenda, actually 2 slides, the agenda and this page here. Because regarding your questions about the rollout of the new Primo V NDE, which again, we're not focusing on today, but regarding that rollout, you've got links here that are explaining in detail what is rolled out and when. These links here, I've got here just so we can see them briefly. So for example, here we've got frequently asked questions about the rollout. We've got here the availability, feature, functionality, and release plan for the NDE. And we've got here a description of the NDE with related documentation. So you've got everything here. You've got the links in the PowerPoint. You can download the PowerPoint from the Roadmap Webinar Series page, and therefore you've got everything you need. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump right in and start looking at the functionality. So I have, just so we know what's going on here, I have an Alma I'm logged in here as my colleague Alicia Hen, my colleague in the library. So I'm logged in here. Then I have a next discovery experience, an NDE of the Primo V. I'm also logged in, although we will be logging in and logging out just to show different functionality. And in a separate browser, I have the current Primo V. I'm also logged in here. Here I'm logged in as Yulia. And this is so that when we want to compare the new NDE, the next discovery experience, with the current Primo V, we can compare them. So the first thing we want to point out is the enhanced user area and user menu. And for example, here, I'm in now the Primo V, the NDE, the next discovery experience. I'm logged in and I have my initials on the top right when I'm logged in. And from here, if I click, I can go directly to a specific part of what I have in my definitions. If I click My Library Activity, I get to the overview. So I'm going to click here, Library Activity, and I'm in my overview. The important thing here is in one page, one overview as it's called, I can see all of my activities. Actually, the only one that I don't see here is my saved searches, but we'll talk about that soon. But I see the loans, the requests, the fines and fees, the blocks, the saved records, and my search history all in one area. I could also come and go to a specific section of that. For example, if I want to go directly to my saved records, I can go directly to the saved records. So instead of going to the overview and needing to click on the saved records, I'm directly there. Same with other ones. I could go directly to my search history. My library activity, again, is the overview, and then I see my loans, requests, fines, fees, etc. with links to view more. We're not going to show all the loans. For example, here we've got 6 loans. There's no need to take up the whole page with all 6 loans, but there's a link here to view all of the loans. If we were to compare that with the current UI, switching now to Chrome. So here, first of all, you see I had to scroll up to get to that upper bar, but we'll talk about that later. So here I click, it's not the initials, it's the name, which in some cases can take up a significant amount of room. Here, when I come to my library card, I don't have a link here to my previous searches, etc. I've got my loans, requests, fines, fees, etc. From here, I need to click again to see my search history. I can't go to my library card and then to my search history. I've got to do an additional click somewhere. In this case, I'm going to do that additional click here, the search history. And here in the new UI, we see that when I'm in my library activity, I have everything already here. I've got directly to the search history. And I can even just scroll down and see it. I don't need to do that additional click. You'll see there's a lot of places along the new NDE where there's an elimination of those additional clicks. Also, let's sign out here now. I'm going to sign out of both of them. So I'm signing out of the NDE, and I'm going to sign out here of the current UI. So now I'm a user who is not signed in. And let's say I do a search here, information, science, and libraries. And let's say I do the same thing here in the next discovery experience. We'll say, actually did information science and the other one, but slightly different search, but the main point is we're doing a search. If the non-logged in user wants to change his or her default language here, in the in the new NDE, the next discovery experience, there's one click right here on top where I see clearly a picture of a globe and the initials of the language. And I can come here and change my language. Let's choose Polski. So now you see my interface has changed. We do the search. I've got here my labels. We'll talk about these labels. Everything you can see has changed the language. Whereas in the current Primo V, there's again an extra click. There's no link up here. There's no intuitive link up here. There's no link at all. To directly change the language, the user would first need to go into menu and then to the display language and then change his or her display language. So again, we've got rid of that extra click, and in this case, it's an extra 2 clicks. So again, more user-friendly. The user sees directly the link up here, and the user doesn't need to do that extra 1 or 2 clicks. Regarding the language, that change merely changed for this session the interface language because I'm not logged in. When the user logs in, however, of course, it goes to his or her default language. So I'm going to log in here, and I'll log in again as Caroline. And I'll do the same in the current UI. I'll sign in here, and I'll log in here as Yulia. So the language to change for the user, that's still within the library settings of the user. For example, here we can go directly to settings, and here is where the interface language is defined. And that interface language, like today, like in the current UI, that's the language that determines every time the user logs in what will be his or her default language. Again, we can see here, if I'm already here, that just by going into the library card, we got directly to those settings. I clicked up here and I went to my library activity, which brings me the overview, and I already have the link directly to the settings. I don't need a separate one like in the current UI. Here I don't see my settings. I need to do that extra click here, and I've got my settings. So let's now move on to the search area. So different parts of the interface here have been moved to be significantly more prominent. Let's do a library search in both the new UI, the NDE, and the current one. So we can already see here that when we start to do a search on the left, right next to where my eye is, I say where my eye is, my eyes, I should say, are. And I was talking about those clicks also. I want to point out, this isn't that a bunch of us sat around one day and said, hey, Nili, maybe we should redo the UI and gather some of our staff here and come up with some good ideas. This was made specifically with UX specialists, user discovery, user experience specialists who know when designing a web page, what does the user do with his or her mouse? Where does the eye automatically go? All of the accessibility options which are required via the different accessibility standards, a focus group of early adopters who have also commented along the way. So it's not just ideas that we came up with. When we say here that a user comes here now and can search, I can start searching here for academic libraries, Krakow, for example, and I can immediately, right where I'm typing, come along and change my scope, change whatever I want. Whereas if I come into the current UI and I start doing a similar one, let's say libraries, let's do Krakow again. So now when the user does the search, it's over here now on the side. So he or she makes his change, does a search, and it's not right next to where the search is being done. It's got to come over here, choose whatever, and again, choose whatever. So it's all together. It's where the eye is. It's where the user's typing. Let's come back to our NDE. Everything is together here, focused together. And we'll see more of that in a moment. It's also a matter of what we call the web real estate. How much of the page is being used by these different options? And we'll see some real concrete examples of that shortly. Let's now talk about the sorting. So let's do another search here. Let's do something with a lot of results. So let's say academic libraries we want. Let's actually say we want, let's do an advanced search. And let's say, oh, the advanced search is beautiful, but we're going to be talking more about the advanced search soon. But you see that slide out panel, those of you who know and love the slide out panel from Alma. We'll see we've added that now to the Primo V NDE, but we're going to save that for later. So I'm going to do a search here for subject contains exact phrase Italian literature. And let's even throw in there a Dante. Not al Dante, Dante. Okay, so I get my results. And again, right where the eye is going, the user has his mouse, the user has the results, and we can sort here by the various ways, title, etc. Whereas in the old UI, if I were to ask someone, by the way, and we know this from these developments that we did, and from the focus groups, if I were to ask someone in the old UI, or the current UI, I should call it, where is the sorting, they wouldn't know. It's there, but so here we do the same thing. Let's just do Italian literature Dante in a simple search. And is that all spelled properly? I think so. Let's say we want that in our library catalog. So here, the sort is over here on the left. Kind of hidden because the user's focus now is here in the results. The results, by the way, are taking up only a third of the page, which is causing a lot of need to scroll, but we'll talk about that soon too. So here I've got the sort set off on the left with the filters, which might not be the exact appropriate place. In any case, so the sort has moved to be together with the results, which is a logical place for it. And the user can come and search here, sort here, right above his or her search results. While we're here, let's talk about the search bar and the facet line. So this is my search bar. Let's go into the simple search just so we're in the same page for both the current UI and the new UI. So if I perform another search here, let's stay with our Italian literature and Dante. Search. Okay, so here I have on the top my upper bar, or my top bar, whatever we'd like to call this one. Then I've also got the facets by available online, held by library, open access, etc. And let me do this in a library catalog and CDI just so we get a little more results. And I also have with my results the facets by the resource type. Everything is on top. I'm going to come to the old UI, the current UI, excuse me. And let's do that also, just so all things are equal in the library catalog and the CDI. So here, first of all, I don't have the available online, held by library, etc. That's again hidden off to the left. More than that, if I start scrolling here, I'm in the current UI, I start scrolling, I lost everything. I lost my top bar and I lost my resource type facet. I scroll up, I start going through my results. I no longer have that top bar. If I want to switch to the advanced search, if I want to do any links from the top bar, I need to scroll back up and then go choose it. Same thing with the resource types. I need to scroll back up and then start doing it. Whereas in the NDE, the next discovery experience, as I scroll through my results, you can see I still have on the top my search. I know what I searched for, and I still have the facets. I can switch this immediately to only those held by the library or whatever I'd like. And I'm going to untweak my results, or at least remove that part and say, let's wait for that all filters in a moment. Clear all. So again, here in the next discovery experience, I scroll up. I've still got my available online, held by library, the facets here, and I still know exactly what I searched for. Whereas in the current UI, I scroll up, I'm gone. I don't know what I searched for. And if I want to do a facet by held by library, available online, etc., I need to scroll up again and start looking for things. That's the search bar and the facet line. Facet line being here. Let's move to the advanced search. We're going to talk more about these all filters coming up. We're also going to talk more about the resource types filters bar here, more coming up. But let's move to the advanced search, because the way this is built, this being the way we're showing this, everything's building on what we've previously seen. So the advanced search, I already showed a bit that when we do the advanced search, we get that slide out panel, which allows me to see behind the slide out panel what I've already done. And if I close the sliding panel, I don't lose the context of where I am. If I click here, advanced search, here's my sliding panel. It came out. I still see behind it my results. If I close this, I'm going to click the X here on the top right, and I'm right back where I was. I go to the advanced search, I close it, I'm right where I was. Let's do an advanced search. So I'll click the advanced search here, and let's say we want, for example, let's say any field contains libraries, and let's say we want the subject to contain Poland search. And I've got my results. I have on top, I'm scrolling up, I still have here what I searched for. And if I want to change this, and anyone who has ever tried to change his or her advanced search in the current Primo UI will appreciate this. I can click the edit here, and I get, again, what I searched for in the easy to use, very intuitive advanced search slide out panel. And I can come and change this and say, maybe I want academic libraries and subject Poland. Search. I get my results, and again, I can scroll up and still see what I've got. By the way, while we're already here, if I come back to my my library activity, and I go to my saved searches, if my saved searches are advanced searches, I can see that they're advanced searches. For example, here I searched for Jagiellonian University and library science. Here I search for artificial intelligence and subject exact phrase libraries. I see clearly that these are advanced searches. And when I click on those, it opens up that advanced search again with the scroll bar, with the bar remaining on top as I scroll through. Edit opens it up again. With that was taken from the search history from my saved searches. If we come now to the current UI and I perform a advanced search here, let's say we want any field contains Italian literature, and we want subject, or let's actually change that. Let's say we want the subject to contain the exact phrase Italian literature, and we want any field to contain Dante. Search. So now I don't have that edit in order to be able to change the advanced search. If I want to change this advanced search now, I need to click in here when it becomes yellow, get rid of what I'm doing here, and maybe now I just want literature, and maybe now I just want literature. And instead of subject, I want that in the title. And now I can do the search here. So I don't have the edit. I don't have the slide out panel. I need to change it by clicking on top here and choosing whatever I change. And when I scroll through, I no longer see what I searched for. So significant changes in that advanced search. Let's move on. We're good on time here. Nili, you're taking care of questions, I see, correct? Yes, okay. So let's move on to the resource types filter bar, which previously existed only for the simple search. And now, as we saw, exists also for the advanced search. But let's see. I'm going to do a advanced search again, even though we're already in the advanced search, but I'll do another one here. I'll keep this Jagiellonian University Library Science, and let's do that in the library catalog and CDI. And search. Okay, so we already saw here that when I scroll up, I've got this a facet bar to get only those available online, only those peer-reviewed journals, only those open access, etc. In the old UI or the current UI, when we scroll up here, here's my advanced search. I'll just stay in this advanced search. When I scroll up, I don't have that. That exists. I don't have it even when I don't scroll up. It's not here at all. That existed or exists in the current UI. Let's say we want now libraries Krakow. And this one, it does exist in the simple search. You can see here I've got it in the simple search. But in the advanced search, it doesn't exist. By the way, I saw a question. I saw Nili answered it. It's not related so much to the new UI, old UI, current UI. But when I do a simple search on something and I switch to the advanced search, it does fill in. Let me just confirm that. I'm going to search for something a little different. I'm going to say Dante Inferno. And I'm going to say advanced search, and it is already filled in. It is taking whatever I searched in the simple search, but we'll save that for another time, not related to the new UI, old UI. In any case, our point here is my advanced search options in the old UI or the current UI do not contain that availability facets. They are in the simple search, as we can see here. Here, those are resource type facets, which disappear as we scroll. New UI, NDE, advanced search, we have both the resource types facets and we have the availability facets. While we're on the topic of the facets, notice here my results are taking up approximately 75% of the page. I'm having a positive usage or a maximum usage of what we call the web real estate. We don't want to go all the way to the sides. We could have made this 100%. But again, the way the eye works, the eye, the way that the visual aspect of this from the person doing the searching is not to go all the way 100% side to side, but we're covering 75% of the page as we scroll through here. When we look at the current UI, you can see here it's taking approximately a third of the page with a lot of waste on the side. We have about a third here on the right, just gray. Third here on the left with the facets. Now the facets are important. However, what we've done in the next discovery experience is made a link to those filters, facets. So if the user wants the facets, we got a link to the facets. But meanwhile, the page is showing the maximum amount according to the visibility of a typical user, is showing the maximum amount on the page. Let me do a simple search here just to get some different results here. And let's say again, Dante, Italian literature. Okay, and so if the user decides here that he or she doesn't want the filters, let's do the same search here, just so we have, as they say, all things equal. Here, the facets are already taking up a third of the page, and a third of the page are for the results. Whereas here, in the next discovery experience, we have approximately 75% of the page with our results. And if and when the user wants to use the filters, then he or she can click here to the filters. Now it shifted my results slightly to the right, put my filters on the left. Maximum usage of the web real estate. So I click there. If I click that all filters again, it disappeared. I'm clicking this all filters here on the top left. It brings it so I can do the filters and then removes them also. Let's say I want now to use one of those filters. So I'm going to change this again. And now I'm going to say IT specialists libraries. And now I'm going to do a facet. So I already clicked the all filters. And let's say, for example, I want to come down to subject. Let me just say library science here. And I will come down here to subject, for example. Here's subject. And let's say I choose in the subject specific subjects. I'll take, for example, library science. Of course, I want library science, one of the most interesting subjects. Let's take artificial intelligence too. A hot current topic, cloud computing, information science, big data. That used to be the big topic everybody talked about. Now it's artificial intelligence. So I'll leave those three. Human beings is a subject. That's interesting. Let's take the human beings subject and apply filters. I searched library science and I got human beings as a subject. Apply filters. Let's do the same thing in the current UI. Again, so we have all things equal. Library science and search. And let's go to anything here. I'll take the subjects again, so all things are equal. I don't have the checkbox here. I get the checkbox only after I hover. So I'll take the human beings again. Let's take libraries. Let's take library science. And let's take information science. That should suffice for us. Apply filters. So in the new UI, I have on top now my facets. And when I click on here, I've got a little pull down box here, the down arrow. I can see here the Boolean search that I did. I don't see the Boolean search here. When I come here in the current UI, I don't see, is this an or an and? I might know from deciphering my results, but I don't see here directly that it's an or and, whereas if I did, knew from last 3 months with these other active filters, that would be an and between them. So it's less intuitive. But here I see exactly, I'm in the NDE, I see exactly what the Boolean search that I did here is, human beings or artificial intelligence or library science, etc. And I can just click the X here to get rid of one. So let's say we no longer want to facet by human beings. And that immediately changes my results. Now it's 4, and I can see here again the different facets and filters. So the main parts here that we talked about is I have a full use of the web real estate. By default, we don't see the filters on the left, so 75% of the page is being taken up by my search results. Whereas in the current UI, I've got 33%, or approximately 1/3, automatically showing for my results. And the filters are by default always showing, not on demand by clicking the all filters. So it's more intuitive for use. And it's also better usage of the web real estate. Let's come again here and talk about the brief results and something new called the labels. So let's say I search, I'm going to start on purpose in the current UI. Let's say I search here in the library catalog for Library China Rural in the library catalog. And I've got my results here. And in many cases, I can't see or can't know what are the results that I see here coming from. For example, this is obvious that it's the title of the book, and this is obvious that it's the author, and this is obvious that it's the publication year. But here, for example, where it says the ponderation of developing rural libraries in China, and then it says Journal of Library Science, I know, because I've used this before, that that's the part of when we're using a 773 or a 77X and have the article or bound with, etc. It's part of. But I don't see, here's another one, Academic Libraries in Urban China. So this is coming from Library of Science in China, #2. But I don't see that intuitively. I don't have labels telling me what they are. And also, many times there's a summary in a result, which is coming in the case of a Mark 21 record from a 520 field, and I wouldn't see that. Let's do another example. I'm going to search for data librarian. And then we're going to go to the new UI and compare. So here I'm searching for data librarian. Again, I don't have any summaries of what may appear here. And if these are coming from another source, for example, this one is coming from Presglad Bibliotechnik Krakow, I don't see that it's part of that. This is an article or a book chapter inside here. If we come to the new UI, the next discovery experience, and we do the same thing, let's say I'm going to do a search by library catalog. We'll start with the libraries, urban China, etc. And we'll see the same thing. So let's say libraries, I think it was rural China actually. I could go into my search history and see. And let's see our results. So now I have labels. I know that it's by, I know the date is the published on, and I have the part of. So I know that this is coming from one of those 77X fields with the related records. Let's even take a look at that just to show. If I go to this ponderation of China here, back into Alma as Alicia, so that related record is coming from that 773, which is pointing there. I won't get into the whole theories and usage of the related records, but here it's pointing to that Journal of Library and Information Science, #3, issue 2. So when the user were to do the get it, it's going right to there, volume 2 or whatever it was there, and it's coming from one of these. Okay, so we've got the labels here, the by, the part of, and we're going to talk more about this in a moment. This is the summary. Let's even look at this one right now. Rural China, let's not take on the revolution. We try to keep things. Let's take Chinese librarianship in the digital era. So here, this is a summary. Let's say even read more, because this is feedback from our focus group that we were talking about. The summary is a useful part here before the user decides, do I want to access this? Do I want to go look more in detail at it? So let's take this Chinese librarianship in the digital era. And we'll see there that there's a 520 field with that text because it's a Mark 21 field. But again, it's format agnostic, as they say. It would come from whatever the summary field. If you're using Dublin Core, you're using Unimark, Chinese Mark, modes, whatever you may use. So here is my summary field, 520, the library in China, rapid socioeconomic development, etc., etc. That's what we're seeing here. Let's do the data librarian again for a moment. And, oops, sorry about that. Oh, sorry about my spelling and everything else. Okay. So here's a nice one. The subject of this paper, so it's giving me the summary. Data librarianship, the academic library, drawing on the expertise of blah, 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 blah. And here's the data librarian and the data steward from the journal in Krakow. If we take this one, we're going to see how we can play around with the configuration of this as well. I didn't know if we would have time to get into the configuration, but I see we're so far good on time. So here, if we come into this, and by the way, that's a nice word if anybody noticed, databrarianship. Databrarianship, that's the word here. And in our bibliographic record, we've got that 520 summary field showing drawing on the expertise, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's what's displaying here. If an institution comes along and says, hey, I don't want that, it's just confusing my users, which I don't think it would, but let's say you don't want it to appear, you can come along to your discovery, configure views, and in that view, notice I'm going to the NDE view. We're going to get to these views in a moment. And I edit that NDE view and I go to my brief record display. The reason that summary is displaying is because I have that checked. Let's take a brief screenshot here. I'm going to say here, I want these two records, and let's put them here for a moment, just so we can see the before and after. So we'll see what we're talking about here when I say we can play around in the UI, etc. So let's say here, oops, sorry about that. We're talking now about this here and this here. That's the summary we saw is coming from the 520. And if I come along here now and I say, I don't want to display the summary field, and I come along here and I search again, so that was numbers 2 and 3. I might have to do a refresh, but we'll see. Now I no longer have the summaries. You can see here under databrarianship, data librarian, it ends in part of, it ends in publishing 2016, whereas previously we had here the summaries. Number 1 and number 2 have the summaries. Number 1 and number 2 no longer have the summaries. Let's put that back. I yes want to display the summary field, and I will simply refresh here now that I checked it. And once again, I have the summary fields. Let's move on here. Record actions. So while I'm in my results here, we've got various record actions as part of the record, displaying right here, again, intuitively, part of the record for sharing. Different options here. These options did exist in the current UI. They were accessed and appeared in a different way, however. What is nice, however, is we can also do multiple selections here. Let's select 3 of them. And here we can add these to our favorites. Let's even take this databrarianship and the data librarian and steward. I'm going to add these. Those are going to go to my favorites. We'll see in a moment. And let's do an export. I can export to various types. I'll export to Excel. I can also export directly to a CSV file, download, and I get my results here. I exported only 2, but of course we can export many more than that. So the user can export here. There's also the exports to all of the different types of citations. And I've got my Excel of my results here. There's my nice is part of that we saw with the label, etc., etc. Let's move on now. We are good on time, but we don't want to go over time, and we want to make sure we cover more things. There's still a lot to cover. Finding, in fact, what to cover in 1 hour for this with so many different developments here wasn't that easy. me close that. No, I don't want to save. Okay, I'm just going to look at one thing here. Someone asked about Zotero. These are my citation options to export to. No Zotero there, but I'll let Nili take care of that Zotero question. Okay, let's talk about the requests and the request forms. Actually, let's talk a bit about the full record display. When I get into the full record display, because that'll be the lead-in for the requests, let's do the full record display first in the old UI, or the current UI. So let's take databrarianship here. Databrarianship. Databrarianship. He thinks it's not a word. He's giving me the red underline. Okay. If I come to the full view here, I lost all of my bars on top. The search bar, the facet bar, the top bar of my Primo, everything is lost. If I want to get back there, I need to close it, and now I have it again. Now I've got my search bar, my facet bar, my top bar, whereas in the NDE, I come in, I still have on top, I'm in my full view, and I still have on top here the top bar, the facet bar, and I can scroll through the records. Very nice feature there. Very nice. Scroll through the next, the previous, etc. And I'm going to go back to my original results here. So everything is saved on top. It's not that extra click again of first closing and then going to where we were. We have 13 minutes. Let's go to the request forms while we're here. I'm going to take food medieval Poland, and I often spell that medieval wrong, but you know what? I'm just going to take it from my search history, from my saved records. By the way, the records we added will be in our saved records. I'm going to take here, we added not long ago those saved records. Let's go to my search history. Let's take Dante Italian literature, actually. And full view. Let me get ones which are books first. And let's get held by library. And let's come in here. So here we see a different option here for requests, different than what we know from today of the Get It tab. I'm not going to compare anymore because we got 12 minutes and a lot to show. And nice request form. Actually, I am going to show because it's such a nice improvement. We come along here and we get the request. Let's say here, food medieval Poland. Okay, I spelled it properly. We come in here. So now the request is here in the Get It tab. Now we have this. In the NDE, we've got this. These are my different types of requests that I've defined in this environment. Of course, in your environment, you'll have whatever you have defined. And when we go into the request form, beautiful new request form, let's say here, request. Here's our current request form. Our new request form, sleek, clean, easy on the eye. We can choose here our pickup. If there is a terms of use and the user wants it and the library wants to make it available, calendar. So this is our new request form. Again, with the development or with the suggestions of the user group, I can reset that form and decide I want to fill that in again. That's the request form. Collection discovery. Let's go to the collection discovery. I'm going to start in the current UI because I'm going to show what doesn't exist in the current UI. Then we're going to go to the next discovery experience. So let's go to my collection discovery. These are title level collections for those of you who may not be familiar with the collection discovery. So one example is the ability to search throughout the entire hierarchy, throughout the title level collections are built in a hierarchical level where there's sub-collections and sub-collections of sub-collections. So for example, if I were to come into this flowers, I've got a collection here, flowers, and within the flowers collection, I have a collection called bulbs. Within the bulbs, I've got Sternbergia. Sternbergia is one of my bulbs. And if I want to search for this Sternbergia, from within the flowers, let's go back to the flowers. And I search here for Sternbergia, which is in a collection of a collection. It's in a sub-collection. It's 2 levels down. I search here, I get nothing. In the next discovery experience, I'm also going to go to collection discovery. Here's my collections. By the way, you see here in these collection discoveries, I don't have right on top the name of the collection. And here, if I come into flowers and I search, it's inside the sub-collection here, flowers, bulbs. And I search here for the Sternbergia. It brings me those sub-collection. It tells me these are this one's part of something called miscellaneous flowers, which is a different sub-collection. And this is part of the bulbs. So it brings me to the sub-collection. Also, while I'm in the different collections here, let's go to Impressionists and Portrait Paintings. So when I get into one of these, I can move along like we saw before in the other results. I can move from place to place here. By the way, this is still undergoing development, which is why I don't see the preview mode, the quick view. Nili can talk more about that or write more about that in the chat if she wants, but this is still undergoing the development, so I don't see the image yet, but I do see here I can scroll through differently. I can go back to my results with this arrow here. And also when I'm in a specific collection, let's go back into, let's actually take Ex Libris employees from around the world. We'll go crazy here today. Instead of the Impressionist paintings. So within here, if I want to see different results here in different ways, instead of, for example, viewing these as grids, we can switch to the list. Let's go back to the flowers, for example. And let's go to the annuals. So now I've got them in a list form. And if I go into the grid, now I've got them in the grid form. Again, we'll say that because I've also got a nice filter there. Here I am in the grid form, Impressionist paintings and portraits. And I can switch here to the list. Also, the filter is coming soon, but we've already got the link here. Clicking it wouldn't open the filter, but like in my regular search, when we click that filter, it'll open the side panel when I say the regular search. Like here, when we have our results, we can click that filter and it opens the side here. So that's also coming here in the collection discovery. When in a collection, the filter here will open the filters. Okay, I've got 6 minutes. I want to point out one more important point. I want to point out a lot of points, but we can't do a 2-hour session. We could do a 2-hour session, but I don't know how long people would maintain their attention. So as far as, let me unmute Nili, but Nili, hold on a moment because I want to just show one more thing. I need to go to participants and Nili. Okay, Nili, you're unmuted. I sent you an unmute request. So when I come here to discovery, configure views, and you'll only have that, of course, if you're a discovery administrator. So you can take any of your current views. For example, I'm going to take a view here. I'll take my default view even. I can take this and say duplicate for ND. This way you can test it on your own. I'll say duplicate for ND. I'll call this whatever I want. I'll call this Manishmachi. And so now I'm making a code here, and you could call it testing my ND, library materials, whatever you want. Duplicate for ND, and it creates a new one, a new view, and that will be in my list here. Here it is, Manishmachi. And I could take this, if I do edit on this, it's got that checkbox that it's the NDE. And I'm going to get out of here for a minute. And so we duplicated for NDE. We said duplicate, and we duplicated for NDE. This is already an NDE, so I don't have the duplicate for NDE. But here I've got the duplicate for NDE. That's what I did on mine. And then I can say go to view. And that brings me to the view. So now I'm viewing, not here. Now I'm viewing. Here it is. Here's my new one, Manishmachi. And this is the NDE that I duplicated from an existing one. And when the time comes, and Nili will talk more about that, or you can read those links that I gave you, you've got the switch to live. But I'm going to remove this because I don't anymore need it. Okay, Nili, I'm turning this over to you. Feel free to share your screen, speak, etc.
No, I will speak. Thank you,
Okay.
Yoel. That was great. So the options that now you see that Yoel showed, the duplicate for NDE, and also the configuration is things that you were asking in the chat, like the summary checkbox. These options available when you have NDE enabled on your environment. At the moment, we are starting of May, we are in a phase in the rollout where what we called a managed general release. We ask you during April to register for an access for the NDE if you plan to go live in 25 or early 26. And we got 118 institutions registered for access in the NDE. We divided those customers into cohorts. I can say that around 40 customers just received yesterday an email with an access to the NDE. Only these customers will be able to go into their configure views and see this column of NDE and duplicate for NDE their existing view. I also put in the chat the Go NDE and the transition to steps. We were defining and help you to know more about the rollup, what steps are required. What you all just saw, the duplicate view, and the option to duplicate and utilize existing configuration is showing you actually that in really few steps you can have a good starting point with the NDE. You will be able to duplicate your live view into NDE view and in parallel test on productions your NDE views. And you can everything that we're doing is actually on view level. So if you'll do configuration, it's going to be on view level. So what Yoel just did is covered overview of the difference. In the moment that you are doing this duplication of view, and do a bit branding and customization, you have the option now to go into this testing mode of looking at the overview of what are the changes and learn. We just give you the step to start immediately with an NDE view with a good starting point and to learn more the impact, and then you will go and explore more of those changes. This is one of the sessions of the difference. I think we will do more sessions like that in the future, more also on customizations. and we are looking for your feedback. I just want to say this is from May to November. Those 120 customers will get access. Access will be granted to all on November, both production and on Sandbox. And this is at the moment where we are in terms of the rollout. And I'd like to thank you all for that scan.
Thank you for having me, Nili. That was wonderful.
Uh,
And maybe we'll do one on the configuration we were talking about. There's so many webinars we want to do in so little time. Okay, so the recording will be posted. We'll tell everybody where and when the recording is, but it's going to be in the standard places on the YouTube channel and on the webinars page, and we'll see everybody. Oh, let me point out also, we've got on May 22nd, check out the Alma 2025 Roadmap webinar series. We have a session on new normalization rules in XSL. Very nice feature. So let's see you then as well, and have a nice day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.